Hey there folks, welcome to this Magic Find Pit Berserk Barbarian overview. Now note that the gear list over here on the right, this is the optimal efficiency gear and can, at least to some extent, be adjusted, but we'll go over that in the gear section, which I'll put an annotation here that you can jump to, or a little bit of timestamp in the description. I do want to note that I know a number of people who play online end up watching these videos. Note that this build is optimized to specifically clear the pits as quickly as possible with as much magic find as possible, and if you do that on the realms, you're probably going to get yourself temp banned, because this thing can kill in as little as a minute to minute and a half. I'll go over, after we go over everything else, a little bit of like other things that this thing can do. I'll also annotate that here, and it'll be in a timestamp. One more note before I get started. So we're all on the same page. Know that this build is to be run at players 1. Alright? Higher player settings only reduce the no drop rate, but okay? They don't make drops better. But champion, unique, and super unique monsters, and we're only dealing with champion and unique monsters here, all have a no drop rate of 0 naturally, so all you do by increasing the number of players in the game is make them do more damage and have more health for no drop benefit whatsoever. Players 1, players 1, players 1. Alright, now for the build itself, why would we use it? Simply put, this is the most efficient build in the game for finding high-end set and unique items. We're talking things like Death's Web, Death's Fathom, not Templar's Might, Tyrael's Might. Those tier items, alright? This kills fast, it can pack on a ton, an obscene amount of magic find while still killing just fine. And you have a high level of find item. Now what are the cons? Well, the first, obviously, is the cost, because holy crap, that list is expensive. The second is that, as you can see, it is not simple to play. I am screwing up constantly. And to be fair, I mean, there are 2 reasons for that. 1, I'm awful. 2, these are like the first runs I'm doing with this build. But there's definitely a learning curve here, because it requires constant weapon switching, and you have to be on top of your potions, because Berserk does not give you any leech whatsoever. It's not physical damage. And so if you're the kind of person who likes to kind of relax and watch stuff while you're playing Diablo 2, or you're distracted otherwise, this probably isn't for you. And that's sort of the last of the cons. This isn't really for everybody. If you want something more laid back, or if you play hardcore, where I really don't suggest this because of stuff like what we're watching right now, it can be dangerous. I would suggest a Singer Barb, which for those of you not familiar with the nomenclature, as a barbarian who kills with Warcry. It's actually quite strong, can be super efficient also. It's close anyway. And a Blizzard Sorceress running the Ancient Tunnels, again, also, like, you can pretty much run it in your sleep after you get things down, and they, for cost, they're really efficient characters. Alright, so how does this work? I mean, we've been watching a few runs here. Keep in mind that a lot of builds will have like a weapon switch, but they'll rarely use it. Your weapon switch here is actually your main setup. We've got a caster setup, which is what we're using almost all the time, and our kill setup we only switch to treat baddies like pinatas. So yeah, what you're looking to do is teleport around on your caster switch, find a boss pack, and when I say boss pack, I mean either a champion pack, which come in packs, right? 2 to 5 champions, or maybe possible to be 6, but 2 to 5 is normally what you'll see, or unique monsters, like Ooze, Spit the Bile, names like that, which come with a pack of minions. You teleport in on them, howl away the minions and random monsters, like I eventually did there after I sucked. Kill the boss, switch back to your caster weapon, use find item on the corpse, and then teleport away and do it all again. It's really simple. It is not really easy. The main problem is if you're at all lagging on pressing the buttons on your mouse, you can get caught in animations and just end up sitting there howling for 5 seconds, like you've seen me do several times here. So you've got to really figure this stuff out mechanically, so I would suggest you do this slowly to start off with, so you kind of get your bearings. Also note that because you're so quickly switching skills on your caster switch, on your main switch, on your kill switch, you only ever use Berserk. So unless you mess up, that should never change. But because you're changing skills so constantly, having a good hotkey setup is key to being efficient with this. I've done a video on that I'll annotate here and put in the description. There's also, I'm going to link in the description to Fabian. He did a Pit Berserker guide. He's got his own list of hotkeys that you can try from there. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is maps. Now, this subject is meaningless to online players, I'm aware, because every game their maps will re-roll, but for those of us who play single player, it is the most important aspect of playing this character, just like with any Magic Find character. For all the talk from me about this being efficient, efficiency is all it is killing as many boss packs in as little time as possible, and having a bad map can make the best character from the best player absolute garbage. So what we're looking for when I'm telling you to find a good map is, number one, you want it to be small, right? You want it to be small with high boss pack density, a large number of boss packs, with a direct, and you want those boss packs to spawn on a direct path between the entrance, right, so back over here, the entrance, and level 2. Now level 2 will always look the same, right, but level 2 will have a minimum of 2 monsters, and I think it can have up to 4, but generally speaking, you're going to see 2, sometimes 3. Obviously, the ideal map would always have 3 at least. You're not going to find an ideal map though, so you've got to make compromises. Now, that when I say small, yeah, I'm talking about the overall size of the map. It's not to say that a larger map can't be good, but again, we're talking about boss packs over time, so the smaller the map, the quicker it is to get through. When I say a direct path, you'll notice, what I'm doing right here, is I'm going side to side without making any progress towards the end. It's taking an absolute crap ton of time to do that, and unless you're killing 4 boss packs in the process, it's really not worth it. If your map has that kind of stuff, you're pretty much guaranteed going to want to re-roll it. That stuff kills your efficiency so quickly, and it's so tough to get into your mind necessarily that it's even doing it. So you may notice from what I'm saying, I'm pointing out that the map I'm running on here is actually not good. And there are 2 reasons for that. 2 reasons that I'm showing this bad map to you. The first is that this video is 2 weeks past when I wanted it to be, and I don't have time to roll a good map. The second reason is I actually think showing a bad map may be more useful to you, because while you're rolling maps, you're mostly gonna see bad maps, so knowing what a bad map looks like may help you, discard those things faster and get on with your life. Alright, now, yeah, the number one problem with a map is backtracking. And I include side paths like what we've got here with that. Note that the problem is not the map having that. The problem is boss packs consistently spawning there. there's only so many boss packs that can spawn per map. If you consistently have boss packs spawn in those out-of-the-way places that suck to go to, there's just not enough number of boss packs to spawn to make up for that. So just re-roll the map. Like, the map I'm running now, something that looks like this, get it out of there. It's garbage, don't even bother. Like, 1-2 runs, see this, just change your map. Also, don't cast with grief. And people with really good eyes may be noticing I have not once cast battle orders this entire time. Anyway, yeah, avoid maps with those little T-junctions, with little offshoots. Just get rid of all of that, alright? If you find a map where a direct route to level 2 gives you a pretty good amount of boss kills, and I mean, I'm basically going on feeling here, because I want you to be able to do this in like 1 or 2 runs. If it feels like, yeah, that felt pretty good, because you should be counting in your head as you're killing anyway. And also note that a champion pack, no matter how large, counts as a boss pack. In terms of drops, we're talking like, I think it's about 3 point something, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 champions to a unique, but still, for these purposes, they're identical. So if after 1 or 2 runs you're like, yeah, this seems okay, do about 10 runs. All right, see how many bosses you're averaging, or how many bosses you feel like you're getting, and then, you know, recalculate. Note that to really have a good feel of an average, you're going to need to do at least 50 runs, and honestly, well more than that. Of course, I'm talking about a lot of boss packs, and what does that mean? Well, I mean, it's a little tough to say because it does depend on how large your map is and how quick it is to run, but in general, I would say the minimum on a pit map worth running is going to be 7 boss packs on average, with 7.5 being more in line with like an okay to good map. And for reference, the one I'm running now averages 6.4, so it's terrible. 8 would be very good, and 8.5 pretty much means you were ordained by the god. But I mean, again, like, if it's particularly slow to run, it can still be bad. And which is why you kind of want to come up with a standardized measurement to compare different maps with, and to get a feel. Sometimes that feel is death. A feel for how well you're actually doing. For that, I would suggest going with seconds per boss pack, which you can find by dividing the total number of seconds you run by the number of boss packs killed. The number of boss packs killed multiplied by your find item percentage in decimal form. Which, like, I have 54% find item. That would mean the number of boss packs killed times 1.54, because we're increasing 100% by 54%. I know that now that formula will be in the description with an example, and yes, I'm aware that that's math, and everybody just tuned out because nobody cares or will try doing that part at all. But what I'm aiming at is to give you the tools to maximize what this build can do for you, because if you plan to spend time on it, the differences can be massive. And to explain to you how massive, I'm going to compare some known quantities here, taken from the single-player forums Hall of Records thread. Alright, I'm going to compare Fabian's Pit Berserker, which is the most efficient magic-finding character I know of in existence, against the most efficient Ancient Tunnel Sorceress I know of, which is Corruptix. Alright? Given their numbers from the Hall of Records, Fabian will kill on average, after adjusting for find item, about 2 more bosses per minute than Corrupted will. Mind you, Corrupted has the best Ancient Tunnels numbers I've ever seen. Right? 2 more bosses per minute doesn't sound like a lot until you think, you know, that's 120 bosses per hour. That means if they both did 100 hours of running, which really isn't that much if you play very much Diablo 2 at all, that is 12,000 more bosses. That's the equivalent of 2,000 1,000 of Corrupted's runs that Fabian would be ahead. Okay? That puts him 17 hours of effort ahead. Just from running his character instead of Corrupted's character. That is enormous. Now, I'm not saying that you're... And, I mean, to be fair, if you take the numbers from the character I'm running right here and compare to Fabian's, double the difference between Fabian and Corrupted. It's 4 times more efficient. I'm not saying you can match Fabian's times because he spent years farming and trading for a ridiculous level of gear. And his pit map is so good it would make Flying Spaghetti Monster weep marinara tears, but what I am saying is that if you put in some time on the front end to do just a little bit of comparison and analysis, you can reap huge dividends later on. Alright, in terms of seconds per boss pack, a quick and dirty guide would be, if you're under 7, you're getting competitive, right? You're doing alright. If you're under 6, you're doing really well. Pretty much only barbarians can get below 6. If you're under 5, you're a master, and if you're under 4.5, you should open up your own dojo. The whole funky mustache thing, that's up to you, man. You do you. Now, I know that was long, but I hope it was informative, and let's move on to the gear and skills. Alright, so for the skills, alright, we want to do 20 points in Berserk, 20 points in Sword Mastery, 1 in Natural Resistance, 1 in Increased Speed, 1 in Battle Command, 1 in Battle Orders, 20 in Find Item, although consult a skill calculator, you don't want to be wasting points here. 54% is at 27, skill level 27, 55% is at 29. We're going to max out Howl, and then the last thing you'll max out will be Shout. That will take you to level 99, all of those points combined. If you feel like you need to adjust things, which I wouldn't suggest in single player, but if you're online, maybe you want to dial back the damage a little bit, you would take points out of Shout first, because Howl has a use, and Shout is literally only good as a synergy. Probably put them in battle orders. Alright, now, onto the gear. So, there's a fair bit of flexibility here, but what I have here, what I'm listing here is just the optimized magic finding setup. There are a few essentials though. Grief, Enigma, cannot be frozen, enough increased attack speed for the maximum frames per attack on Berserk. For Phase Blade, that's going to be 42 total IAS between weapon and gear, and 105% faster cast rate while on your teleport switch. Maybe you can get away with less, I would not advise it. Beyond that, you can tinker around based on what you want. I'll discuss a few options, but I'm focusing on Magic Find here, so if you're looking for something else, you're on your own, basically. Alright, for the Helm, Harlequin Crest is basically unbeatable. The Magic Find is great. Honestly, everything here is great. The life and the mana, obviously, they're not boosted by battle orders, but the mana is really relevant, actually. Damage reduced by 10%. That's physical resistance. 10% is also quite strong. There's not really anything that competes. The optimal gear here has a Cham there. I don't have a Cham to put in my Harlequin Crest. You may also be in that position. There is a way to get kind of be frozen otherwise, though. Enigma is absolutely required. You can't do this build without Enigma. You need Enigma. Grief also required. Note, again, the optimal setup says you need 32% increased attack speed on the Grief. There's only 2 failures, and I mean, yeah, basically that's going to be okay, but note that if your Grief does have 30 or 31%, the gold wrap is not going to get you where you need to be. You're going to need more increased attack speed than that. Also note, ignore target's defense only works on regular monsters and minions, and since we're only dealing with champions and uniques, that text may as well not be there. You need attack rating for this build to hit. Alright, for the offhand, I've got a 6-ist phase blade. Anything that can hold 6-ist would work here. Honestly, anything you want to put here will be fine. 6-ist weapon is the magic find option. The defensive option is storm shield socketed with whatever you need / want, like burr, if you really want that physical resistance. Ist, shale, eld, whatever you need. Whatever you need there. Alright, now we're going to move on to the belt. Yeah, lost all my potions there. This is for our Cannot Be Frozen. This is Trangul's Girth. Also adds mana and life, which is pretty cool, but this is just there for the Cannot Be Frozen. Since we're using this instead of Gold Wrap, we've got to get our attack speed elsewhere. So I'm using Laying of Hands instead of Chance Guards. And Chance Guards are good for, again, 2 reasons. We want as much magic find as possible, and we do need attack rating, and they do carry a little bit. But Laying of Hands has the attack speed we need, and they also have a huge bonus to damage to demons, which most of the things in the pits are. You could use a rare if you would rather, if you have a rare you like, or craft, or whatever, as long as you're getting your 42% total increased attack speed, it's fine. Naga rings, the minimum of sort of the baseline for what you want from the ring. The magic find obviously is the main draw here, but the attack rating is also good, so if you keep an eye out. Maybe you have ones with high attack rating. Other things that are good here, rares, crafts, if you're okay with losing some magic find, those things can have super cool mods like life and resistances and stuff like that. The one thing you do not, under any circumstances, want to use here is Ravenfrost. Yeah, it has Cannot Be Frozen, but it also has cold damage that it adds to every attack, and cold damage gives every corpse a 20% chance to shatter, which means you can't use Find Item on it. Ruins your efficiency. Without cold damage, Ravenfrost would be like an auto-include, basically. As it is, they're completely off limits. They're terrible. War Travelers, not really any competition here. The magic find is great, but the plus damage is also very relevant, and the added life is cool. So I skipped over Amulet because that goes into our caster switch. What we want is 105% faster cast rate, so the easiest way to get that is 2 of the 50% faster cast rate weapons. That's Wizard Spike or Suicide Branch, ideally socketed with an Ist, and then that would leave you to need 5% faster cast rate from your Amulet. Ideally, it's going to have 2 barbarian skills, stuff like resistances, life, magic find. Again, if you have 15% faster cast rate on your Amulet, you can swap one of these weapons for a Heart of the Oak, which gives you more skill points, which means more life from your battle orders, more points in Find Item, and stuff like that. Alright, so now let's look at the Mercenary. Insight is required. I mean, maybe there's a way you can get by without it, but I seriously doubt it. The rest of the gear, you have some options. You can go Andarel's Visage and Treachery, which means the mercenary pokes faster and presumably will get his might aura going more quickly. Or you can go with what I prefer, Andarel's Visage with a Cham. This is where my Cham from Pendle went. And Chains of Honor, which is where my Burr from the Zonathon went. And this gives more raw damage. Means that, if I'm being an idiot and howling at nothing, he can kill things for me. I think this is pretty much the best setup, the best Merc setup generally in the game for most situations anyway. And I feel like having the Merc have Cannot Be Frozen makes him more useful in general. But to be honest, you can put basically anything in these slots. It's fine. Give him some resistance. Ideally, some Cannot Be Frozen. And definitely give him Life Leech. And yeah, with the Insight, he should be fine. He'll be okay. Don't worry about him. Do note that instead of the Might Merc, you could if you need more survivability, you're playing hardcore, you could use a prayer merc instead. That's the Act 2 normal mercenary. Don't hire them from hell because they'll have worse stats and their aura will be at a lower level because their prayer aura is synergized by meditation aura from Insight. It's cool. It gives you a pretty strong healing aura. It's probably overkill / not going to be good enough, but it's an option you have anyway. Also note for hardcore players, if you want to try this, I would strongly suggest going with the Storm Shield offhand with like rings and charms focused on life and resist. Honestly, I'd suggest you try a different character because this is really dangerous and super expensive, but that's up to you. And one last note, as I said, gear can be adjusted, but do keep in mind when you're making your adjustments, the essentials, right? What I want you to do is when you're thinking, oh man, I'm missing some gear, I want you to keep in mind that you want to hit these pieces. If you're like, well, I don't have a Cham to go on my Harlequin crest, and I don't have a Trangle's girth, and I don't have an amulet that's got faster cast rate and barbarian skills. What I want you to think is in terms of something like, okay, well, for my Helm, I can get Cannot Be Frozen from Kira's Guardian. Okay, then I can I want to use Chance Guard so I can get back some of that magic fine, so I'll use High Lord's Wrath as my amulet, and that gets me the attack speed. And then to make up for the faster cast rate, I use Arachnid's Mesh. And see, now we're still hitting all of the points that we would be getting from these places. And that's kind of that's the mind space I want you to be in when you're making adjustments to the build. I mean, with things like that, you're going to be losing in some ways, right? With that, you're going to be losing life and skills and damage. But you're still going to be staying on point, is basically what I want you to keep in mind. All right, because I screwed this up a little bit, let's make just a touch of room. All right, I do want to go through at least one run here and talk through it again. Now, one thing that I did not show in the earlier videos, because it works much better if I'm telling you about it, is a little trick. Alright, so when we teleport, we move our mouse to the edge of the screen and we hold down teleport. Well, if I then open my character screen, it moves my mouse and I can move it even further and teleport further. Alright, let's do it the other direction with the skill tab by closing that. Do it in a different order than how I did, and again, we can teleport further. It's helpful. It takes a lot of getting used to, and I honestly don't normally use it, but it is there. It is actually helpful and actually useful, so I will include it for you good folks anyway. That's just, what is it? Well, I don't remember what that is. No, that's Corpse Mourn, right? It's fine. Wow. Alright. So, again, teleport on top, howl things away. Let the merc kill them, basically. Teleport on top, howl things away. Then Zerk until they're dead, pork the corpse, and repeat. Also note, this is why I'm saying Insight is so important. Do you see how much annoyance it is when you're fighting mana burn stuff? It's super annoying. And it's also dangerous. So, there's also that. Kill him, pork him. Alright, and then, yeah. So hopefully that, kind of explains what we're doing a little bit more to you. So I do want to go over one last thing. All right, for the online players, right? This will probably kill too fast to just do pit runs with it. Like, I don't know exactly how long the timer is before Blizzard gets all pissy, but like, again, this can do like a minute to a minute and a half runs. What you can very easily do with this character, though, is do the pits, do Pendle Skin and Lower Kurast all in the same game and not have to adjust this build at all in any fashion. And that should give you like at least 3 minutes. Like bare minimum, I would say. If you need more than that, with some adjustments, you can do some other things. Honestly, we'll just go ahead and do Pendle real quick. But, where are you, buddy? There you are. See? No, not a big deal. That circlet's actually not any good. Not a big deal. For Ancient Tunnels, if you wanted to do that, right, because that is something you can do, you can swap this weapon, the Offhand, off for Azure Wrath, which means all of the undead in the Ancient Tunnels now have zero physical resistance because of the Sanctuary Aura, and then you could kill them with Concentrate. For that, I would suggest you take points out of Shout, put them in Battle Orders, which gives you more damage per point than points in Concentrate do. Also remember, change your rings then to something with Leech. I mean, you can adjust the builds. You can kind of do both. It's a little bit worse than a dedicated build would be, but I mean, you need to kill some time. Alternatively, the build basically as is, maybe again with some points taken out of Shout for Battle Orders, can run the Worldstone Keep, but I would strongly suggest you use a Storm Shield instead, because holy crap, can things get dangerous, especially when you're amped, which you will often be. But keep in mind that you're going to have access to the Anahilus Charm and the Hellfire Torch. You're going to have more resistance, more life, and more damage than I can have. So you're going to have way more room in terms of, tuning your exact skills set up. So play around a little bit with things. Overall, I hope this has been useful to you folks. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.